The federal government announces tax cuts for everyone, though high-income earners won't get as much back as promised. Woolworths boss concedes he misread the political environment on Australia Day, and Netflix is back, adding subscribers by the millions. Welcome to Fear and Greed Business News, Australia's best business podcast. It's Thursday, the 25th of January 2024. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, after the show, you are speaking today to Julian Fayed, who is the founder and CEO of loanoptions.ai.
Yes, Loan Options is a great supporter of our podcast. They provide loans from more than 70 lenders. Basically, they allow you to get access to loans really, really quickly. And I think what he actually said at one point there, Julian, was that the best they've ever done is about 35 minutes, which is pretty incredible. At the moment, it is primarily in personal loans, those sorts of areas, but they're looking into mortgages. So it's just a very interesting chat about what's going on in that market.
Yeah, and loanoptions.ai, as the name suggests, is kind of using AI, and it's kind of one of those instances of where businesses are really using the technology that's available to streamline and speed up a process that can usually take much, much longer. So I found it a really interesting conversation. It's coming up a little bit later on after the show. But the main story this morning, Sean, the federal government will slash the already legislated tax cuts for people earning $200,000 or more, but will provide breaks for low-income earners in really a major policy reversal.
The changes include lowering the 19% tax rate for incomes up to $45,000 to 16% and reinstating the 37% rate for those earning between $135,000 and $190,000. Now, remember that 37% rate under the Stage 3 tax cuts was going to be dropped altogether. After that level, that 190,000 level, the 45% rate will apply. There'll be no change to the 18,200 tax-free threshold. The net effect means people earning up to 150,000 will be better off than they would have been under the current legislated Stage 3 tax package, while the benefit for those on the highest incomes will almost be halved. Those earning under $45,000 are not eligible for cuts under Stage 3, but they will benefit from yesterday's announcement. Now, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese brushed off criticism that he'd broken an election promise, and indeed a promise he has made regularly in recent weeks, saying he was determined to help middle-income Australians. The opposition has already criticised Mr Albanese for breaking his word, saying Labor was engaged in class warfare.
This has been talked about for a long time and speculated about the changes were coming. And now that it is finally here, it is a sizable backflip, and it is an opportunity for opposition parties and detractors to say that Labor has broken an election promise. How much political damage do you think this could do to Anthony Albanese?
I suspect many of the people complaining most, the high income earners who won't get as much from the tax cuts later this year, are in the minority, given the Prime Minister can say he will deliver a tax cut for all Australians who earn more than the tax-free threshold. Some middle-income earners at the top end of that will earn less, but a lot of middle-income earners will actually receive more, anything under $150,000. The fact that some of those top people will earn less could hurt a bit, but there's so much talk about the need for cost of living relief. Then he'll probably get away with it. Where the Prime Minister's problem lies is that he's gone back on his word, and he was saying there wouldn't be a backflip as recently as the weekend. There has been a backflip. It is a broken election promise. You can't argue that, but it's probably good policy, just not great delivery, and the opposition will hammer Albanese on it. I think he'll get through okay because he can just turn around and say, well, there's millions of people out there better off because of me.
Yeah, there is a good story to sell within it. But wouldn't you think that knowing that this would be coming, because he would have known that this was the plan for a while, because there's so much work that goes into modelling all of this kind of thing. But to be even saying as recently as a few days ago that there wouldn't be a backflip, just, come on.
And Albanese is an experienced politician, and he knows how to kind of get the message out weeks in advance without actually saying too much. It's just stuff up on his side of things, I reckon, that he hasn't actually prepared the market for what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is a bit messy and a little bit ugly, and it is going to be fascinating watching it all roll out now. How did local markets perform yesterday, Sean?
The S&P ASX 200 closed up just 4 points to 7,519 points. The market's had a great run over the past 3 months, up almost 10%, but it's pretty much exactly where it was 12 months ago. Yesterday, some of the energy and gold miners did best, while the big miners did well as iron ore prices rose on the back of a report that Chinese authorities are set to boost the nation's equity markets. BHP and Fortescue Metals Group, for example, both rose 1.2%. Commonwealth Bank continues to perform well, notwithstanding a 0.8% fall yesterday. On Tuesday, it hit a record high of $116 a share. Funny thing is, plenty of professional bank analysts out there have a sell rating on the bank because they say its share price has gone too far. Generally, the banks were lower yesterday. Tech stocks were the underperformers, with WiseTech Global dropping nearly 2%. James Hardie Industries, one of the best performing stocks of the past year, was down more than 2.5% yesterday. Plenty of stuff going on among some of the smaller stocks. Northern Star Resources climbed at 6%, the best of the ASX 200, after confirming guidance thanks to what it called an exceptional performance at Kalgoorlie that offset cost headwinds. Commercial lender Prosper bounced 3% on news it had bought Zip business loans. Online retailer Kogan, one of our favourite COVID stocks, well, it jumped 15% after making a profit in the first half of fiscal 2024 as subscriptions and advertising revenue jumped. BWP Trust fell 2% and Newmark Property REIT jumped 37% after the two parties agreed to merge in a $3.5 billion all-scrip deal. Why do we care about BWP and Newmark? Well, BWP Trust owns 75 Bunnings stores scattered across the country. We probably, you and I, Michael, probably use their property kind of as regularly, well, maybe not as regularly as home, but certainly as regularly as we do any other retailer. And Newmark also owns some Bunnings stores as well as Officeworks and Kmart's, bringing them all together. Market seemed to like that one. Listed insurance aggregator AUB Group dropped 3% after it completed a loan refinance. And finally, medical disinfectant services group Nanosonics share price tumbled 33%. Now, Nanosonics jumps around a bit. It missed December half revenue forecasts on the back of lower income from US hospitals. That's obviously a private system there. US hospitals are trying to cut costs, therefore not buying as many products from Nanosonics, and that has really hurt Nanosonics' share price.
Sean, one of my jobs on this podcast is to identify little moments of jargon and just ask you to explain it. An all-scrip deal, for those who aren't familiar with the term.
So basically getting shares, so there's no cash involved in it. So Newmark Property people, shareholders, will get however many shares, however many BWP Trust shares. There won't be any cash involved.
There you go. Easy one. Easy one, that one, Sean.
That one was an easy one, yeah.
International markets, what's going on?
Well, I just thought for a bit of a change, we'd look at some of the big companies on Wall Street that are reporting. These are all companies that we know and use. United Airlines, for example, said it's set to beat expectations as the carrier works to overcome the costs from the grounding of certain Boeing 737 MAX planes. 3M share price, 3M, the Post-it notes and stuff like that.
The little sticky notes and things.
Yeah, its share price tumbled after it disappointed. Same deal with General Electric. General Electric, big in motors, big in health, all sorts of things. Johnson & Johnson. Band-Aids. This comes to mind? What comes to mind when you say Johnson & Johnson?
Baby powder. I'm a big fan of baby powder, Sean.
What about Procter & Gamble?
I noticed how you just rolled straight past that one. Procter & Gamble? Similar kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. No, I would have gone more like the paper towels and stuff like that. Procter & Gamble's big on.
Oh, is it?
Procter & Gamble's? I think so.
All right.
Anyway, Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble. Why do they have two names? Johnson & Johnson in particular. Why not just the Johnsons? Why do you have to have Johnson & Johnson?
That's a very good point. But, I mean, they could be entirely unrelated Johnsons.
They could be unrelated Johnsons. You're right. We're moving on now. Basically, J&J and Procter & Gamble, they've produced profit forecasts towards the top end of expectations. So their shares have done pretty well. The mixed results were kind of good enough to allow the S&P 500 to hit a new high yesterday morning. Otherwise, oil and gold are steady. Bitcoin's continued its slide, and the Aussie dollar is buying 65.7 US cents. Farewell to J&J.
We'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Sean, Woolworths chief Brad Banducci yesterday conceded that he misread the political environment when the supermarket decided to drop Australia Day merchandise a few weeks back.
There's been an uproar ever since Woolies made the decision, and Mr. Banducci has received 3,000 emails about it. And yesterday he said threats against staff have jumped by 50%, which I've got to say, on a serious note, that's outrageous.
That's just not on.
Yeah, it's just not on. Now, opposition leader Peter Dutton, of course, he's called for a boycott of Woolies in response to the decision. Woolies yesterday took out advertisements insisting the chain was not trying to cancel Australia Day. Instead, it was a decision made almost 12 months ago and reflects poor Australia Day sales. Of course, Australia Day is tomorrow, Michael. Its date is now very contentious, with many big businesses, including the big four banks, allowing staff to swap the Australia Day holiday for another date. Woolies has become the business flashpoint of this whole argument. But anyway, Mr. Banducci said the reason they did it was purely commercial, nothing to do with the day.
Now, big media news, Sean. Former News Corp Australia boss Kim Williams will become the new chair of the ABC, replacing Ita Buttrose when she steps down, in about 6 weeks' time.
Yeah, that's a very tough gig, chair of the ABC. Yesterday, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said Williams has extensive experience across the screen sector in music, sports and media industries and has made eminent and substantial contributions to the cultural life of the nation. Williams has held a number of chief commercial positions across the creative industries, including the Australian Film Commission, Southern Star Entertainment, Fox Studios Australia, Foxtel and News Corp. Eminently qualified for the job, no doubt about it. He's done all those things. Do you know Kim Williams at all?
No, not personally, but I mean the stories and his
Famous
presence within the media,
yeah,
has been very, very large in recent decades.
Yeah, can you imagine? So he left News Corp Australia. He did a good job, but kind of by the end of it, he didn't get on that well with some of the editors and things like that.
About 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And he's going to the ABC, which doesn't have a great relationship with News Corp anyway. Why would you open yourself up to it? He's a very nice fella, Kim Williams, very sort of charming and erudite. And, you go have lunch with Kim Williams and you get a good bottle of wine and you listen to him and he's just very entertaining. But man, you are really opening yourself up when you're going to take that chair of the ABC job.
Oh, it is going to be quite a tumultuous period, I'm tipping. I think it's a fairly safe bet to say that.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, Woodside Energy Chief Executive Meg O'Neill says creating breadth and capability in the LNG portfolio is a key driver for exploring a potential $80 billion merger with Santos.
Yes, but she's also signalled that Santos shareholders should expect no more than a reasonably modest premium for their stock. In her first direct comments on the merger talks since they were revealed in December, Ms O'Neill told the Financial Review that Woodside is always looking at a variety of ways, both organic and inorganic, to manage the energy transition, and Santos is a very significant LNG player. She warned that talks remain at an early stage and there's no certainty that the transaction will progress.
Australia's biggest pure-play lithium miner, Pilbara Minerals, has warned that the slumping price of the metal means there will be no dividend for shareholders in the December half.
Pilbara Minerals reported revenue of $263 million for the December quarter. That was down 46% from the previous 3 months, even though production was higher. Lithium prices have absolutely tumbled over the past 12 months. In fact, they're down 80% with a glut of product on the market, just as demand growth weakens. While the company is unlikely to pay a dividend, in a statement yesterday, Pilbara said it is well positioned relative to many of its competitors to withstand lower prices and potentially capitalise on any rationalisation in the industry that might occur. Elsewhere, Core Lithium said it will cut a number of roles and suspend operations at a mine near Darwin to cope with lower prices. Last week, we had another couple of lithium miners say something similar.
Rio Tinto's share price rose nearly 1% yesterday after the iron ore major signed a 25-year deal to buy all the electricity from Australia's largest solar farm that's actually yet to be built, Sean.
Yeah, so the plant will be built and operated by European Energy near Gladstone in Queensland. The deal is expected to lower Rio Tinto's operating carbon emissions by 1.8 million tonnes per year. The plant, which is expected to take 2 years to construct, will employ 1,000 people during that construction period and support 100 direct and indirect jobs when operating. What I just love about this story is the size of the deal. The amount of electricity needed, 25 years, just incredible.
It is huge. Now, last one, Sean, before we get to international news. Qantas has launched its new safety video and will begin rolling out the 6-minute piece on domestic and international flights in 12 different languages.
Have you seen it?
I haven't yet. No, I still love the last one they did, which was all like the different eras of Qantas with all of the different kind of costumes. Is the new one good?
It's very, very Qantas, I think. That's probably the best way to describe it. Outback in Western Australia, Tasmania, Sydney and Noosa in Queensland all get a run. So too New Zealand, California, Mexico, India, Morocco, South Korea, Rome, Paris, and my personal favourite, Lapland in Finland. Well, you got to love Lachlan, who moved to Lapland to, as he put it, marry the love of his life. There you go. The video was filmed over 40 days in temperatures ranging from 36 degrees in Jaipur, India, to minus 36 degrees in Lapland. There are 75 different versions of the video, but the new safety video, well, guess what? It immediately attracted criticism with the Flight Attendants Union saying it appeared more about destination marketing than safety. They kind of have a point. You must go and look at it. It's great. It is beautiful, and it has the emotion of, the people turning up on the parents without the parents knowing, and all, the normal sort of Qantas stuff. It is beautiful, but it does make you think, I wouldn't mind visiting Morocco.
We should go and do a fear and greed on the road.
Oh, I like it. We could do all the Qantas stops, so like New Zealand, California, Mexico.
Yes.
Then over to Lapland and Finland and Rome. And I like that. Do you reckon they'd sponsor us?
Yeah, I'm almost guaranteed. I would suspect it's almost guaranteed. And if not, we'll put it to our fear and greed colleague, Adam Lang, who kind of... He manages the money, doesn't he? Just to see whether it's possible to self-fund this trip.
Tight-ass Lang, we call him. Tight-ass Lang. I hope he's listening. Getting a bit loose here pre-Australia Day. Let's move on to international news, shall we?
International news indeed, Sean. Donald Trump has beaten Republican presidential nominee contender Nikki Haley in the New Hampshire primary, winning by about 10 percentage points.
It's not quite the death knell for Ms. Haley's campaign, though she will now come under pressure to withdraw from the race to give Mr. Trump clean passage. Her team said she will continue until at least Super Tuesday, which occurs in early March. That's when 16 states vote on the same day, 16 primaries on the same day. The Republican presidential nominee race now shifts to Nevada, where Ms. Haley isn't really competing. It will then progress to her home state of South Carolina, where she really needs a good showing.
Sean, the Israeli army says that 24 soldiers have been killed in the Gaza Strip in the deadliest attack on its forces of the 3-month-old war against the militant Hamas group.
According to Associated Press, the reservists were preparing explosives to demolish 2 buildings in central Gaza when a militant fired a rocket-propelled grenade at a tank nearby. The blast triggered the explosives, causing both 2-story buildings to collapse on the soldiers inside. The heavy death toll adds new momentum to calls for Israel to pause the offensive. Large numbers of Israeli casualties have put pressure on the government to halt military operations, but Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues to vow to press ahead until Israel crushes the ruling Hamas militant group and wins the freedom of more than 100 hostages held captive in Gaza.
All right, change of pace, something entertainment-based to finish on here, Sean. Netflix added more than 13 million subscribers globally during the last 3 months of 2023, helped by the final season of The Crown and the film The Killer.
The December 2023 quarter was Netflix's biggest ever December quarter growth. And it shows how the streaming service that was struggling a couple of years ago has come back strong. The news sent Netflix's share price surging. Revenue was higher, and while subscriptions continued to dominate income, the group expects advertising to become a growing portion of incomings. Little aside to this story. This happened yesterday as well. Netflix and TKO Group announced a $5 billion deal to bring World Wrestling Entertainment's Raw exclusively onto the streaming service. Good news for people like you, Michael.
have I ever said anything to you that gave you the indication that I was into wrestling, Sean?
It's just how you built and what gym work you're doing in that.
It's just unnecessarily savage to finish the show.
It probably is.
I will remember this. Up next is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. You are speaking today with Julian Fayad, the founder and CEO of loanoptions.ai.
Yeah, all about using artificial intelligence to improve the loan application process. Really fascinating.
Yeah, and they're good supporters of the podcast. Up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 25th of January, 2024. Make sure you're following the podcast and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, X and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson and that was Fear and Greed Business News. Have a great day.